right now I'd like to introduce our next conversation, which we know will be a very good one, as they all have been. This panel is entitled The Gender Impact, Women Making Development Sustainable. It is featuring Michelle Bachelet, the Executive Director of UN Women, Gunilla Carlsson, the Minister for International Development Cooperation of Sweden, and Radha Muthiah, the Executive Director of the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, to be interviewed by Elda Müller. Please welcome our panel.
Good afternoon to all of you. I must say I'm honored to be in the company of these ladies. They know you are powerful, you are inspiring, and you dedicate your vision, your knowledge, experience, and wisdom as well for the benefit of many women around the world. So welcome, and thank you for your brilliant job.
Thank you.
And I would like also to, well, I'm honored too because of the presence of Queen Sylvia, Brazilian as me. Thank you. And also King Carl, thank you very much for your presence. This brings more importance to our panel, the women's panel. Well, we're going to start with Ms. Bachelet. There are many accomplished women today, thanks God, but few in key positions. At the same time, we face different situations around the world. Women suffering, facing violence, earning less money than men when they work, when they have a job, and most of times with no voice. How far do you think we are from a better balance between men and women? And how the social media can accelerate this process?
Well, thank you, Elda. I just cannot answer you an exact time framework because it has been 20 years ago in the Earth Summit. It was mentioned that women were a vital piece of sustainable development, and after 20 years, we see there has been slow progress. But having said that, for example, in the region, Latin America, we are the region with more head of state or head of women female, 5, and that means that things are moving. I believe that there's a lot of obstacles, and we need to identify, and UN Women with our partners, government, civil society, parliamentarians, are working to identify which are the obstacles that prevent women for being in decision-making position in politics, in the economy. And we're working on identifying which are the solutions to that. So I think we're progressing. We believe that through good electoral laws and through some special measures, special transitional measures such as quotas or such as the one who exists in Ecuador or Tunisia, that is like a paritarian law with alternate names on the list of candidates. You can improve the women present in parliament, the women in councils, local councils, and of course, why not, and as the President of the Republic, like here in Brazil, Dilma Rousseff. So what is needed to do that? Of course, to identify the obstacles, to develop the policies and the laws that can, I would say, abolish those obstacles, but also we need role models. We need women in high-level positions that are role models for other women. And in that sense, not only is it important to have women as presidents, as parliamentarians, as mayors, etc., but also social media can give the voice to the ones who don't have voice, can be a place where women, powerful women, can also connect to other women, give suggestions, recommendations on their own experience, and I would say let the women's voices be heard.
Great. And about the social media, to accelerate, do you think?
It will accelerate. But it won't mean that social media means immediately, automatically, that women went in power. Now let's see, the biggest example for me is Tahrir Square. I went in March after the Egyptian revolution last year there, and I used to have meetings with the girls of Tahrir Square. You know, social media was very important in terms of mobilizing people, organizing people, and so on. But afterwards, women were sort of raised out, erased out of parties, political parties. There was an election with these special measures, and only 2% of all the elected persons were female. So I think social media can be a great opportunity, but you need to do something else also, because otherwise it's not guaranteed.
Thank you. Ms. Carlsson, the solutions come from cooperation, no doubt. We heard this all day. How can partnerships leverage the social and economic aspects of the sustainable development agenda?
Well, I think we have to really see what is development about. And it's really to bringing people together and really to develop jointly. And that's why I see with the new media, with the internet, we can really tear down barriers and to make new people meet each other. And this is the huge potential. And that's why we strive very much. I'm a Minister for Development Cooperation, to see how can we find the best solutions out there. How can we work with innovations, but also the new and bright ideas, and to make people be able to participate. It's turned things upside down, because now we can have everyone to have a say, but also to be able to participate. And that's why I also think now that I'm so happy to talk at this forum, because it's really illustrating what we need in order to spur development in the world, and a development that is more fair and more sustainable. And we are doing that with partnerships. And that's why we are trying also to see what's the problem out there. And then not only talking about poverty, but to say, yes, that's the problem, but how to solve it? And then to start identifying the problem, and then to ask everyone to help to solve it. So here I think a lot of things have happened the last years. Mm-hmm. And it has coincidence with a speedy globalization, but also a tremendous digitalization that is now followed by urbanization. So I'm actually, in these days, rather hopeful about that we can have a new paradigm of development, because now we can also see the women.
Yeah, definitely. Radha? It's so difficult to change behavior based on deep-rooted habits. What kind of actions can help women to achieve a better level of consciousness, and in this way bring changes to their homes and their communities?
Thank you for asking that. And I think I would, just before I answer that, I just want to build upon the two responses that have been provided. Michelle talked about the importance of role models and, for other women to follow as well, and the importance of partnerships that Gunilla mentioned. I think, but fundamentally, women have to have the opportunities. And if they have to have the time and opportunities, they can't be burdened with things that are taking inordinate amounts of time when we have technology and solutions available today that should really give them the opportunity to participate in their communities and economies. And so I come from it, I head the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, and what we see is that women are at the heart of our families. Women are at the heart of nutrition. Women are at the heart of sustainable development. But unfortunately today, they're spending 4 to 5 hours a day collecting fuel, whether that's wood or any other forms of biomass for their cooking, and then using inefficient cooking, which takes another 4 or 5 hours a day to prepare their meals. So that's, let's say, 10 hours, almost half of the day that's gone in that process. That's too high an opportunity cost. We're sitting in 2012. The world is full of possibilities of how we can have better solutions, more innovation, and that's where we're very thankful for the Swedish government for supporting with financing innovation that will allow women the opportunity to be able to purchase, to have designed, appropriate stoves that can, get to addressing what their cooking patterns and habits are. So we don't intend to change cultures. That's not what we're all about. We intend to bring better solutions, many designed right in those communities that can help them move forward and contribute to their economies and communities.
Yes, please.
And can I just add with this excellent example, because it's solving an actual problem, and it's also helping to combat climate change and pollution. But it's also empowering women and creating new business opportunities, because suddenly there's a lot of changes taking place. And I think that's what development is about. And here I think it's an excellent example of solving a problem, doing it in partnerships, but also with the time that the women now have to do something else and to use her capacity. So that's why I think this is one of the good examples. But of course, there are some habits that needs to be changed when it comes to how the bread tastes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
No, absolutely. Those are some things that, we need
But
to
Elda,
address.
may I mention something a little bit different, but it's also very important because in many parts of the world, women are facing violence against them. And that is because of attitude, but also because of social norms. So I think, again, here, linked to what our friends have already said, you have also the need to work with the social leaders, with the religious leaders, with the community leaders. And let me give a terrible example, but unfortunately happening to so many women in the world, female genital mutilation. Yeah. Female genital mutilation is a social norm. Mothers take their children, so they are perform this terrible intervention. And it's because they believe that their children, their daughters, will have a good marriage, a good possibility in the future. So we have to change attitude through empowering women on the areas we have been talking, but also we need to change social norms, working with the people, with the leaders, and transforming into more positive and constructive norm that will permit women to live in a better way.
Definitely, yes. Let me see the time. Well, we have a question from the audience. Well, I think the three of you can answer this. What is the most important tool for empowering women? Of course, we have been talking about this, exactly this, but is there anything you would pick up and say, this tool is very important or most important of others?
Well, very quickly, I believe having women in decision-making positions. And that means having women in politics and women in the economy, because that will mean that you will have included in all decisions the concerns, the needs, and the solution for women's problems, and to work with women to solve and to be empowered and really can achieve women's rights.
It depends on where and who, but it can also be simple things like access to water and sanitation.
Water and basic.
Absolutely. And I think it stems from just awareness and education and their ability to engage in the solutions to the problems that they face. So whether it's at the highest levels of government or it's in the household in terms of determining what's the appropriate design of an energy solution or a water solution, for their needs. If women are engaged in it, they're likely to use it, and it's likely to benefit their families as well.
Great. Well, I have another question. This is a huge question as well. What kind of scenarios do you see in the near future with the emergence of a new middle class that brings millions of new consumers? In Brazil, it represents 48 million women that want to enjoy the party. So they want to buy, so this is a pressure on sustainable environment.
I hope that these opportunities will be seized and that we are talking about development and continued growth, because that's also part of development, but to see how can that be inclusive and sustainable, and also to fulfill the needs that are there. There is a lot of needs that needs to be filled, and we have to work together with the market, but also to make the right choices and to be able to take decisions as a person, but also collectively, so that this is not ruining the future. And also to see that it's inclusive, because I think many women and men are not so happy if we see that my success is dependent on someone else's unfortunate.
Yes.
And here I think, and I hope, and I believe really, that a new generation, it's not only about women, it's a new generation. A majority of the world's people are young people now. It's the first time ever. And I think they will transform if we just have a little bit better guidance. And to play the platform here now, to see that it's really a sustainable and inclusive growth that we are talking about, that could really not only combat poverty, but also have new innovations and new ways of living for consumption, production, and everything. So that's why we need the innovations, and that's why these talks are so important.
Yes, please.
Well, I think it's a great thing, because then women will be considered as a driver of many processes, because we need to look at the women in the whole supply chain, as consumers, as farmers, as producers, as CEOs in a company, as workers. So I think this brings a big opportunity also for the private sector to consider that women are very important, also to include more women in their own industries, on their own companies, because they can bring the women's perspective, it can make it more profitable, more rentable, but on the other hand, try to think on products that will solve women's life and facilitate women's life. So I think it's a great opportunity, because I hope this time women will be taken seriously.
Definitely. Radha,
the issue of inclusive value chains and partnerships is so central to what we do. We have seen over and over again, for us, clean cook stoves, it's nothing new. People have talked about cook stoves for decades. What's different now? Women are being included in the process right from the beginning. In the past, there was a man in a laboratory designing a cook stove, and then it is dumped literally in a community. It was given free of charge. And the expectation is that the woman should be so happy to receive it. It doesn't meet any of her needs, so she's not going to use it. Then we don't have the impact on the environment, we don't have the health impacts, we don't have the economic impacts for her. But today, she's involved in the design, which is why we see hundreds of different good, efficient, clean cook stoves that are available that meet the cooking needs, practices, etc. of women around the world. She's involved in selling that, so she's making money from that. And women who, choose to purchase it are much more interested and trust another woman selling it to them, versus someone else. So we see all of these as being incredibly positive to address the issues, not just in cook stoves, but broadly in development as well.
I think listening is a kind of talent of women. Pay attention to the experience, and that's what you were saying now. Listening to these women and taking advantage of all this wisdom they have to put the process more something that we can trust. And talking about that, do you think are we moving toward a world with feminine values? The world is becoming more feminine. I mean, sensibility, compassion, patience. Do you think so?
Well, I think the world is, I hope that the world is getting, much more humanity values on it. And I think women share a lot of those values, as men too. And but on the other hand, it's also that women can be examples of leadership, of resilience, of bravery, of courageous women we have met. So I think and I hope that the world is including, because I think the main issue is inclusion. Because when women are included in peace settlements, in peace agreements, you can be sure that that agreement will be more sustainable, because we'll consider men's perspective but also women's perspective. So I hope, what I really hope is that this world is much more inclusive, much just, and much comprehensive. And that, of course, it's something where women can play an important role too.
Right.
You sound a little bit like a dreamer, talking about a more feminine, compassionate, sensible world. And that world is both for men and women. I think we shouldn't monopolize feelings and to say that that's for a specific sex. Mm-hmm. But having this opportunity, because we can care much more about each other in the future, we should also see the dangers that are attacking the rights of women these days. I'm talking about sexual and reproductive health and rights, because this is one of those missing links that we really have to recognize and how important they are. Because we know that when women can claim their rights and to be protected by them, we will also solve many other problems, but also that we can hopefully address much better sexual violence and many other things. Because it is about Planned Parenthood. It is about having the opportunity to say no and to be respected for that. And that's why I really hope that everyone that's listening and taking part of it really realizes the understanding and the knowledge, but also the importance of fighting for equal rights, but specifically also women's rights to reproductive health and sexual rights. And this is something that we have been advocating during these days here, where we had the Rio conference. We haven't gone all the way through, because there is a lot of backlashes today against the rights of women also. So we have a golden future, but we shouldn't dream. We should also see the reality, and we should fight really for a better future.
Okay. Radha?
I think dreams and aspirations are important, but we need to act now. You know, the world is increasingly fragile, if I can use that word. We talk about the environment, we talk about population growth, and so we need to have, you know, the woman's right to choose. I do believe that's very important, and we need, in terms of birth spacing and planning, we need to look at all of those issues very carefully to help preserve this environment. We talk about the number of youth, you know, and their aspirations and interests, and earlier today we heard from someone who said, don't talk, just act. You know, there's no time left to do it.
I'm afraid we have 20 seconds. Very, very short time, actually. I must thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all.
And let's walk the talk.
Thank you.